Not a problem. Thank you.
So, Shalini, welcome to the international webinar. And interestingly, for you, it may be a first experience. And in this series, you're the first, going first in the series. Tomorrow is the second recording, and you will be reviewing the short story, Did Churchill Know? From Dangling Gandhi, right? So let's hear what you have to say.
Right. Thank you so much, Jayanti.
Yes.
First of all, thank you so much for including me in this webinar series. I'm really happy to be here. And yes, you've given me the story, Did Churchill Know? From your book, Dangling Gandhi, and I'll be very happy to review it today.
Yes.
So I read through your story, and I noted down some of the points which I thought I would like to share with you and everybody else.
Yes.
So basically, the theme of the story. So the story takes place in a quaint rural Indian town, and it provides a very vivid portrayal of the daily routines, the customs, and the beliefs of its people. Although in some of the scenes and some of the plot, it appears to be a bit meandering without a distinct direction. The story does offer a lot of intriguing insights, I would say, into a range of topics, right from the introduction to leeches and to the tourism and to speedboating in general. And additionally, the story also sheds light on the experiences of the elderly man who was waiting for a ride to the tea plantation, and also the impact on natural disasters like the floods, which was mentioned in the story, on the lives of the people in the area. So overall, the story presents a very fascinating snapshot of a specific time and place, which showcases the rich tapestry that you have described in this small Indian town. So that's what I sort of took away from that. Now, if I wanted to talk about the plot of the story, although the plot is not immediately evident when you're reading the story, it does present a very intriguing mystery, I would say, for the reader to unravel. The protagonist, Jack, could be on a journey to the site where his loved one, Annie, had passed away, which sort of adds to a poignant layer to the story in general. So basically, at the beginning of the story, it sort of appears that Jack could be a curious tourist, perhaps, who is just seeking directions. But his true motives or his true intentions were not entirely clear at that point. So it makes the reader want to sort of read more to see where this is going to take them. And the enigmatic title that you have given, Did Churchill Know? Also adds to the mystery, even though it's not immediately connected to the plot or the theme of the story, but it adds to the mystery of the story, so it makes the reader want to continue reading. And I would say overall, the story presents a very engaging puzzle for the readers to sort of piece together. And in general, it makes it for a very entertaining read. So let me talk a bit about the characters also.
Sure.
So the character building in the story is actually very subtle, and it's very nuanced. It is basically revealed through the actions and the words of the characters themselves, rather than giving a direct exposition about them. And that's what makes it, I feel, more natural, and it just sort of delves into the story. And since the story is set in a rural Indian town, and the characters themselves are described in terms of their physical appearance, their mannerism, their speech patterns, and all of this is conveyed through the use of their dialogue, and some of the regional languages like Malayalam, which you have included in that, their actions, and also some of the descriptions you've given the characters. So these sort of add a lot of depth and complexity, which makes the story overall authentic and more realistic, in my opinion. So if I want to talk about each character, so let's start with Jack, who's the protagonist of the story. He seems to be very curious and inquisitive. He asks a lot of questions about leeches and about tourists and things like that. So And then as we read deeper into the story, we know that it is possible that he's looking for something in particular. And when you reach the end of the story, you find out what is it that he's looking for, what is the information that he's looking for. And then we have Bala, who is the other main character in the story. He's the local resident who is described as slender and tall with a broad white smile. He's particularly helpful and polite. And he provides all the information to Jack about the leeches and about the tourist groups and all the questions that Jack has for him.
Mhm.
And then we have another character, Bala's wife,
Mhm.
whose description seems to be that of a carer. She has a very ingenuous smile, and it could be suggested that she may be more independent and
Mm.
assertive, because there is a scene where she pours the tea only for herself.
Mhm.
So it shows that she may be a bit more, independent, and she does things for herself.
Mm.
That's what I sort of took away from
Mhm.
that.
Mhm.
And then we have another character, Bala's granduncle,
Mhm.
who doesn't talk much.
Mhm.
He's sort of somewhere in the background. Initially, he just sits at the back, and we hear things about him described by Bala. But as the story progresses, we know that he understands English and he's able to communicate a few words. It describes him as having had his father, he lost his father at a young age, and he's sort of waiting for him to come back. So that was a very endearing description to read about him. And one more character mentioned in the book, who is not actually having any dialogues, is, I would say, Annie herself.
Mhm.
The person who Jack is
Mhm.
actually looking for,
Mhm.
or trying to find
Mhm.
information about her. Although we don't know much about her, it can be assumed by the descriptions given that she was really highly adventurous person.
Yes,
She loved trekking and mountain
that's right.
climbing, and loved to do a lot of adrenaline pumping things. All of this based on the descriptions given by Jack. So that I thought we should include her too, because she's sort of probably the crux in the story also.
Yes, yes.
So my overall review of the story is, it's a very delightful story, I would say, Jayanti. It really captures the essence of this charming rural town. And I think you've really beautifully brought it together by the descriptions of the place themselves. The vivid descriptions of the environment, such as the banana trees, the moist vegetation, the smell of the surroundings, and I think you mentioned also the quick feather light showers. They really sort of bring the reader into that place, makes the feeling that they're actually there when you describe it. It adds another layer of depth to the story.
Mhm.
And it's just basically a very natural conversation between the two characters, Jack and Bala. And they make the story sort of come alive. It adds a good tapestry of sights and sounds and smells. It just transports the reader to the heart of the town itself.
Mm.
And
Mhm.
for someone who may have never ever been there,
Yes.
I think it's a very good description, and
Mhm.
it really sort of gives the feeling of actually being present. And
Mm.
also, with the plot, even though in the initial, it's like I said, it's not immediately clear, it does add to the intrigue, and it
Mhm.
keeps the reader engaged in the story, making
Mhm.
it more eager to discover, to see what lies ahead.
Mhm.
And even though in some places where Jack and Bala, they may change direction,
Mhm.
suddenly their conversations, they suddenly change
Mhm.
direction. uh,
Mhm.
but this actually only adds to the realism of the story, because
Mhm.
sometimes that does happen in real life too, and it makes it feel a bit more genuine, and it's not very, it's very unscripted, I would say.
Mm.
So the very unscripted exchange. So
Mm.
overall, I would say this is a wonderful tale. It really
Mhm.
captures the essence of this town and this
Mhm.
conversation between them.
Mhm.
Even though the way in which it ended with how Jack finds out, Jack tells Bala rather about the
Mhm.
death of Annie.
Mhm.
That's when it sort of like hits you like, okay, this is what you came for. And then you then start thinking of, right from the beginning of the story, how Jack had been, and then how he sort of like came out and told him like what was the reason he was there.
Mm.
So this way, it really sort of ties it all together in the
Mm.
end.
Mm.
So
Mm.
this is what I thought I took away from the story.
Very well read, Shalini. Thanks for
Thank
that.
you.
Because writing is uh, my passion, like many writers. But anything written, when it reaches the reader, the way it should be, it's read in a even better than what the author intended,
Mm.
that is the joy. Have you been to Munnar?
Yes, I have been to Munnar, so
Have
that's
you
why I was
seen?
able to
Have
relate
you
it. Yes,
seen? Did you see the arch, Churchill Bridge?
it's been a while since I went there. I would have seen it, but I just don't recall at this point. Since
I
I
went
live in.
there with a group, and
Okay.
everyone. Yes, after I showed them, everyone saw it, but after that, nobody remembered it. They were only remembering other things like normally, and
Uh-huh.
when I came up with this short story, the group with whom I went,
Mhm.
they said, you have something different to take away from the trip. And we don't even remember seeing it. Yes, I remember you showed something, but it didn't register and all. So,
Mm.
um, you didn't expect the ending, is it? There's that kind of a sudden twist in.
It's see, so basically, I knew that already we know that the character Annie has died because he's
Um,
mentioned it in the
mm-mm,
beginning. So we
mm-mm,
know that she's dead. So,
mm-mm,
but when he asks her like how she died,
mm-mm.
I I think I didn't immediately connect it with the leeches because he kept asking about the leeches. So
Yes.
you would assume, as any reader would assume that because she did mountaineering, possibly
Mm-mm,
she fell off a cliff,
mm-mm,
or she had an accident.
mm-mm,
So
mm-mm,
something like this, and a
mm-mm,
little shocking to hear. That's what
mm-mm.
sort of like wakes you up, like, oh, okay.
Um,
Oh my goodness. So that sort of like was a bit I mean,
what did
shocking and something new.
That's right. That's right. You said
Yes.
about it's meandering and uh, in the hilly region,
Mm.
the car goes, twisting and turning, and also Jack is a bit disturbed. Not
Mm.
so that it fell in place. His disturbed
Mm.
mind and unclear thing, it
Right.
naturally came in. When I sat back and thought after maybe months, when I revisited, I thought it came very well that way, and
Mm.
slowly unfolding, like
Correct.
normally. That's the technique I used in this, and it worked well, especially with
Right.
the
It did.
dialogue and things. And tell me about the title. How did you like, and why was that given in the first place?
Yes, yes. So the title itself, it was like um, immediately it wasn't very clear for me. Like, uh, did Churchill know? So if you hadn't read the book, I would think like, okay, something to do with when Churchill was a prime minister or something around those lines. And then when I started reading, it started talking about hills and Munnar and tourism. I was like, oh, okay, so maybe there is some meaning to this. And then when you mentioned the bridge, that sort of like fell in place. Okay, now I sort of get the meaning, and it's a very good way in which you connected that to the story, and
There is, yes, there's
where
another
you came up with the title.
That's right. There is
Mm.
another layer to it, because Jack tries to say he hated Indians. Remember?
Correct.
He
Right.
tries.
Yes.
Balak doesn't catch it.
He doesn't. Right.
So there is a difference in understanding of that history.
Mm.
And I was trying to tell the reader, history is history, but the
Mm.
way you connect with that one fact of history can be
Mm.
so different from people to people. That is one layer. Another
Mm.
layer, you can still go deeper into it for the title itself. It's
Mm-hmm.
like this. Um, we are talking about the British times, right? In the big famine. It was during the
Mm.
British colonial period, right?
Mm-hmm.
And all the tea that were harvested there, plucked there were sent to London, Britain.
Mm.
Okay. The people are going through hardship here. For example, 2 women in their family died of uterus-related problems. It's mentioned, it comes there.
It comes in the
another,
story.
yes. So I wanted to say this also through the title, that they looted India in the the most obvious way of telling it, but they also sent away all the rice and everything, whatever, to the war zones the Britishers fought.
Right.
Also, the humans were given. Here in this story,
Mm.
tea, right? So
Mm.
tea has been, harvested from here, and they were sent to Britain.
Mm.
And people have suffered. And people went through such a big natural calamity. And the
Mm.
residues are still there lingering, even the granddad, a grand
Yes, certainly
uncle,
the
right?
solution.
Grand uncle,
Right. Right.
right? So many of those things from those natural disaster and whatever they went through is still lingering.
Mm.
Did Churchill know all that?
Not at all. I wouldn't
So,
think so. Because
so
he hated Indians.
now what I mean to say is it's not just about Churchill. Here there is a Churchill Bridge Arch. So we are talking about that. We can take it as any British official or Britain, those times,
Mm.
colonial times, did they know the sufferings of the people here, colonial countries? Is that what I wanted to send across to the reader? And for
Mm.
me, there is a connect there with the Churchill Bridge. And therefore,
Mm.
and I brought it in the dialogue. When
Mm.
Bala showed, did Churchill know? I mean, like Jack is asking, did Churchill know there's a bridge in here in his name? Something like that. It's on the
It's
surface,
very,
but
yeah, it's just very catchy, like off guard, he's asking that.
yes, it's on the surface. But
Yeah.
he's asking a little deeper question. Did you
Right.
know he hated? Even that Bala didn't catch, right? He's only keen on showing such a bridge is there, this, that's all, right?
Right.
So, a bridge is that bridge created the story, Shalini, in me.
Okay.
So that bridge, I started thinking about Munnar,
Mm.
centering the bridge in my mind.
Mm.
1942 it was built, 1942 or 41.
Mm.
And, Second World War around. So I was playing with the idea of Munnar, that trip that we went, all the landscape in my mind.
Mm.
It went on coming in my dreams for almost a month. All the landscape. I love the landscape. So
Mm.
it's all there in me, and the center was this. And so I did a bit of research, and this kind of short story came about. And thanks so much for reading so well. And do you have
Not at
anything
all.
else? We can have some more to talk if you want. For
Sure. I
example,
wanted to.
yes, please.
Mm. Sorry, I just wanted to say that, you were talking about this bridge, and when Jack asked Bala, like, did Churchill know? And, when you explained this, he also says that he was a history major, right? So
Yes,
Bala mentioned that. So
yes.
even though he passed it, I think he said 10
Exactly.
times.
That irony, that
Yes.
was a subtle sarcasm that I brought about there. You caught it
Yes.
very well now. Even I forgot to mention it. Now, you told about the Kerala women and all, right. Even that, he
Hmm.
asks the old man, "Chai edukatte, Mutasha," right?
Hmm. Hmm.
She asks. It's not that she's
Yeah,
not taking, she's not offering to anyone. She does ask. He says,
correct.
"No, I don't want." Then she pours it for herself. I'm sure we all know Kerala is ahead in education, especially women's education, and the way they think, and they're ahead a bit because of
Right.
the higher literary rate. And women,
Right.
even rural women there are ahead in their thinking. That way also you have got that subtleness there. And I was happy to note that you noted that it was I mean, I didn't intentionally do that. And like you said, yes, Annie is the center of and without even her talking, much has been said about her, right? That's very interesting. Yes, that's a very interesting angle, which again wasn't intended. It fell in place like that, right? So
Yes.
sudden
Yes.
digressing. You said about sudden digressing. Yes, especially when we are in a tourist place and we are getting friendly with the taxi driver. We talk something about the place, relevant to the place, suddenly digressing, asking this, that, and it happens. And I talk also very freely. Of course, it depends on the situation and the person who's driving. But because
Right.
when we talk, we get to know more than what we might quietly observe, right? So, so the last part, I'm sure the readers might suddenly get to. I mean, this wasn't expected. Like you said, adventures. Maybe she fell down off the cliff or something, and that's how they would think. That's the correct. Well, Jack is observing around. He's from an ICIC place, right? He's all the time watching all the snow and ice and things. Here, everything is green. So obviously,
Yes.
his eyes are new to those things. He is curious to know and curious to ask. At the same time, he's keen on finding out what really happened and things, right?
Correct.
So yeah, um, the characters, yes, I believe as the story moves, as the dialogues happen, the characters must build themselves, especially in a short story. You can't have a big chunk to explain, describe the physical appearance of the nature, the mentality. It, especially in a short story, how to take so much of space, right? So
Exactly.
yeah, so and I'm happy you felt it that way, because that's a success for me, because in a short story, building a credible and strong characters is not so easy. In a novel, it's a different, because we have a larger space, wider space. Canvas is big. So thank you so much. So do we have anything more to talk, Shalini?
Um, n- I think I just want to say that, I had a very good time reading this, and I
Okay.
really enjoyed reviewing this with you. And, it was really interesting I've never done a book review like this before,
Yeah.
but you gave me some pointers on what to look out for.
It's the beginning, Shalini. I will refer you to many opportunities, because these are
Thank you.
yes, because these reading deeper for the reviewing, it expands your thought process.
Oh, yes,
and
absolutely.
and such videos, the links, it takes to places, right? And it's going to be an international webinar, so many are going to watch, and you will get the link when you not so soon, a few weeks later, and you can share around with many people. And thank you so much.
Wonderful. Wonderful.
uh,
Thank you. Thank you so much, Jayanti,
I
for
must
giving
thank
me
you.
this
I must
opportunity.
thank you for your precious time and effort.
Oh,
Happy that
absolutely.
you enjoyed, and more to come. Good luck. Happy
Thank
reading.
you.
Let's
Thanks a
build,
lot.
a larger community with literature.
Oh,
Hi, Natasha. Thanks for coming into this
hi, Jayanti.
international webinar series. And we are doing this in the month of May. which is short story month. That's
Oh.
why we are yes, and of course, recording is happening now, and I'm planning to release the first, which will be your episode, right? In the last week of this month, so that from then, by then I will have some of the episodes ready. So that's the idea. Thanks for reading. Did Churchill know? Yeah. So let's see. Let's hear what you have to tell me about the story.
The first emotion that the moment I read the last line, and the last line is when he wipes the tear that's rolling down the old man's cheeks. The first thing I experienced was sorrow, and a lot of empathy and a lot of sorrow for the old man, for the great uncle of Bala's great uncle, because which is what in Jayanti you're talking about in your story in Did Churchill Know? The entire story talks about grief, and the last line, I was so moved by the last line, where I felt that all the grief that the old man has experienced, it's summed up in that last one line.
Yeah.
And Did Churchill Know? That the short story that we're talking about today, it sort of examines the complexity and legacy of grief that that one experiences in one's lifetime. Especially grief where you've not had closure, you've not experienced all these steps that are required to process grief. And in the story, the great uncle, I think great uncle of Bala and Jack of Forna, both their stories deal with the loss of their loved ones. And especially in the case of the old uncle, he did not see his father's body, which was washed away during the 1924 floods that Kerala experienced, which washed off the monorail. And in case of Jack, his partner, significant partner, was in India when he was abroad, I think in Canada, and he doesn't get to see his partner's body either, as it was cremated. Both these men who are from different walks of life at different ages in their life. I think one is about pushing 100, one is 25, and they've both lost their both lost their partners, not partners in case of Jack's. It was a partner in case of the uncle's father, but they both lost loved ones. And what connects these two disconnected threads, is the pattern that grief weaves in our life as we experience it. The setting of the story that Jayanti, I really loved it. You practically brought out the rural Kerala for me. For me, I was right there, watching things, as they were going on. The rustic beauty, the hills, the way the men are walking by, the transport, you've also brought out this aspect about how the rustic beauty is threatened by the commercialization of that comes with tourism, and the transport. Jack makes a comment on how the locals can negotiate the travel, the trains and the buses. And you've also used sparse native language, but you've extracted the flavor of the region for me, and you've done it so well. For someone who's I've been to Kerala, but I felt at that point in time while reading the story that I actually was there, when I was in the car with Bala and Jack, or I'm standing somewhere, sort of peeping in, experiencing the kind of place, the flavor that you brought out. The timing of the story is also very crystal clear. You've set it up very well when you mention about the 1924. Indirectly, when you mention about the 1924 floods, you say the old man is 4 years old, and somewhere in the story, his age comes into play, and you say he's going to be 100 in maybe 5 or 6 years. So, the time is tangentially set, but it is set very well. So the reader immediately knows what you're looking, what the time frame one is in, without really bringing it out or saying it in so many words. And another aspect that I felt, you've brought out the matriarchal system that some parts of Kerala do follow, and I felt that Bala taking care of his, because I think it's his maternal great uncle. It is his mother's brother, right? If I'm not mistaken, or something to do on those sides.
Yes.
So that aspect also has been, these are very small things. You've not emphasized these factors, but the reader catches on, and one does. The one who reads, people who read, they catch on these small little nuggets that the writer, the Easter egg, not exactly Easter egg, but something on those lines. When it comes to form, the story is simple and it's effective, and I like the way it unearths layers of sorrow through the dialogues that the protagonists are talking about. When it comes to characterizations, the characters of the great uncle and Bala have been sketched beautifully, especially the past of the great uncle, when one time he loses his father, to him going to the station to wait for him, and each time when it rains, and if it's in incessant rain, he gets worked up, and how he has to go to the station each day, and people locals know him, they get him back. That the whole unfolding of his grief has come out alive in the story. For me, Jack felt a little bit, in comparison, felt a little bit of a dark horse, because even though I did feel that he made this trek all the way from Canada, just so that he could walk in the same steps, that to take the same steps that Annie had taken, his significant partner Annie had taken. But it felt that he was mourning her, but in comparison to the old man's grief, Jack's grief felt a little bit more superficial. But that is maybe the way he would cope. I mean, there is no right way of dealing with grief. You don't really have a set pattern. So maybe that was his way of dealing with the loss. And I felt that it's just short of 2,400 words. Jayanti, you brought to light the the devastating effect that grief has, and especially grief that there's no closure for grief. In that, grief is more fatal in the way when it tears through your life. And you've used the bridge. I don't know if I'm right, but I felt you've used the bridge as a metaphor of how life, despite whatever troubles you face, there's a death in family, a closed one death, but life does go on, and that is how life is supposed to be. And of course, I am a true blue crime lover, so I'm not sure if Jayanti meant it, but there were a lot of subtext and undertones that I felt with respect to Annie's death. Annie dies with in a leech incident, and the clarity of how she died, despite Jack's statement. So the overactive crime reader in me has visualized a lot of crime. I'm sure it doesn't exist, but I was like, okay, maybe this is not how she died, or maybe Bala was involved in her death, or maybe there was some kind of a rape or something like that. So, but blame that totally on
No.
detective.
Interesting. I mean, I am not a fan of detective or thriller. Although not that if someone is really asking me to read, I would read. It's not like that. So definitely I'm not going to write a thriller or a detective or something. But it's so interesting that reader, you're a writer yourself, and you're able to imagine further, take the incident further to how can a leech can do that? Maybe there's something else to it. It's interesting how your thought process is. So
I thought maybe the leech was some kind of a metaphor for something which is not mentioned. So I even thought that. So I was like, okay. But
there was one reader when the book came. There was one reader who saw metaphor in the leech.
Mhm.
Just the way the Churchill Bridge is a metaphor. Everyone,
Right,
at
right.
least most of the readers could find that as a metaphor. The leech also, one particular reader I remember, he never wrote a review, but we talked. And he said, I felt the leech also is a metaphor. It can go through the flesh without giving any pain and comes out the other side.
Absolutely.
I mean, something like, here we are talking about grief. That's what he said. We're
Absolutely.
talking about grief, whereas here the leech does it without any pain,
Right.
causing a fatal death, right? So
Right.
that's how he read it. Which I didn't mean to do, right? As a matter of, I didn't mean it. But yes, bridge, yes, I did. Have you been to Munnar, Natasha?
I have not been to Munnar, but I've been to other parts. I've been to Trivandrum. We actually, from our school, we had gone, and in later life, I had gone to Lakshadweep. So you
Okay.
go via, the route. That's a route that you take. And I
Idiki,
suppose
you must go to Idiki first, right? Did you go to Idiki? No.
I don't remember.
Idiki
I've been
district.
to.
Idiki district is where Munnar is. From Idiki
Okay,
to
then.
Munnar is about 1 or 2 hours from Idukki.
Okay.
And from Idukki is where, from what I know, I may be wrong, is where you go to Lakshadweep, somewhere there from there.
Possibly then.
So I had, I have stayed in Kerala, where a different part of Kerala, Angamali, for 2 years, right after my marriage. So even
Okay.
before I came to Singapore. So I know Malayalam not just because I stayed there for 2 years, but my mother is from Palakkad, meaning Guruvayur proper.
Right.
So my mother
The
has,
boundary of.
yes.
Right.
So my mother has that Kerala background. So I know Malayalam, and I used to read also, write also, but I forgot, out of touch. But I managed talking. So that is one thing. The other thing is, you said the grief of Jack and the old man connected. This, yes, almost all the readers did connect with this grief, connecting there at the end of the story. And you said Jack seemed a little, what to say, cold. His way of showing grief is so different.
But that also could be, because we as Indians are a bit
Exactly. I
more
was about to
expressive.
say that. Yes, that's
In
what I
our-
was about to say. This guy is from Canada. He's a Canadian. So that is one thing. Another thing is so young. This contemporary
25.
young guy.
Right.
Yes. Whereas the other guy, the old man, he's old-fashioned, rural India somehow. That is one. Another thing is this guy lost his partner when he's just 24, probably.
Right.
Whereas this old man lost his father when he was 4 years old.
Absolutely.
And he's frozen there. He's just frozen there. Right. And it's so much hardened inside when Jack is, letting out his grief, sharing his grief. His wounds are it's all coming out. Just tears. That's all. But he could connect it with his and he's able to talk English because of the colonial past.
Right.
So yes, this bridge is there. That's what I was about to ask you. Did you go to Munnar? But if you had gone to Munnar, they would have shown you that bridge, Churchill Bridge. Right. I went with a group of friends. I told Shalini also, she recorded yesterday the same story. But the group, they didn't remember even seeing the bridge. Whereas my mind was, this story, actually, I put this bridge as the center. I was weaving inside. Bala, Jack, Annie, the old man, everyone is fictional. I don't know where from I got those inspirations, but the bridge, the colonial past, and those were the things in my mind. And with that just one dialogue, did Churchill know? And Bala asked,
Right,
he's
right,
thinking he doesn't know.
right.
Did you know he hated, and he's missing that? It has so much to say there without even telling the reader directly, right?
Right. Right.
Uh,
Right. I'm sorry. Go on.
no,
Sorry.
yeah, please, Natasha.
No, in fact, I actually forgot to mention this, you brought this up. The title of the story, Churchill, a man who hated India and Indians, despite, what were ruling over us. And yet, as a country, we want to, dedicate a bridge,
Yeah,
after him. So,
not just one
either,
bridge.
and there will be others,
We
right?
have so many, and Churchill
Everywhere.
is just one, because that Churchill bridge. Otherwise, the question is, did any British know about the pains and things the Indians went through and all that, right? It's like that. It's even the title is a metaphor, you can say, in that sense.
Right.
And
So,
yeah, so in fact, Churchill, till his last, even the day before he died, the cigars went from the South India, one rural, they made especially his flavor, the way he loves it. It went, specially shipped. But he hated the Indians and he hated India. Can you believe that? So these are the things. So even, and you can see Bala, he says, I'm BA history, but I passed after so many attempts and all.
3 attempts, 3
So,
consecutive attempts.
history graduate, look at the system of education which is teaching our history. He is only fascinated by the bridge, showing the tourist the bridge, right? What do you know beyond that? You're a
Right.
history, right? Yeah. So not that Britishers didn't do anything to us, anything good to us, like Shashi Tharoor jokingly says, London has a Chor Bazaar as the museum and all. Yes, those aside, I mean, British gave us English, first of all, and then, yes, and a lot more railways, yes. Although they used the railways only,
For
they
their
did
own, right.
made the railways with the purpose of transporting sacks and sacks of rice to all the colonial places wherever they fought also the wars, and the local people were deprived of food. They cultivated, they harvested, but they are, hungry. And that way British created the famines, droughts, and this, or droughts I won't say because it's natural, but famines, yes, they create, and they made the railway only for their transporting. But in the end, India benefited, the independent India. So
Even,
no,
I'm sorry.
no, please.
I was just saying, even, they, they bought in their Victorian standards of life, and in a way, they corrupted our.
Yes,
I mean, I've always believed this. Women's status in India
very
is
correct.
right now a byproduct.
You must read My Misplaced Heads. The
Okay.
novel is talking about this, whatever you just commented. The ideologies or thought processes were completely changed by the Catholics who brought, the Britishers who brought with them their idea. They thrusted into the heads of the men here, especially, and the men changed. Before that, men were only looking at the women topless, or even, maybe a small one in, to go, cover her groin, maybe. Other than that, she only wore, like you can see in the temples. That's how she
Right.
was. And those times, Britishers, they had their women with so much covered.
The full length and the corset and
Because
everything.
yes, because of the weather as well as their Catholic beliefs, right? And then when they came here, they said, how can she be like this? Cover her. And the men over generations, they also changed them. And later on, very soon, they started wearing all, showing the cleavage, this sleeveless and all that. But our men are still frozen there. So
haven't come up.
So this I have captured in Misplaced Heads, and Time setting, yes. With the small dialogues, I had to bring the time that guy belonged to and how old he is, and
Right.
simplicity, simple and effective is that's my strength, and craft is my strength. Simplicity and effective narration is my way of telling story. I'm not so like I don't believe in playing with words. I love to read that plays with words. However, I don't do. So that's one thing. So yeah, those are the things. Flood, yes, flood. The natural, how nature can be. Here, when after I came from Munnar for a month, my mind, every night I will be replaying the green hills and things. They are so beautiful. Yes. Nature also can be devastatingly, dangerous. That's what I wanted to, and also the leech part of it is also coming out
Right.
in that. So life is, yes, to be celebrated. It has grief also. That is also intertwined. So that's what, and it's fully fictional. Someone said it's unbelievable. You got somewhere something. No, I don't know how I even connected the leech now. Maybe I went because when we were there, we were talking about leech and mountaineering and all those things, how the rains can be devastating and
Right.
those things. There were a generic conversation which I observed people talking, and maybe I connected all this, but characters, of course, were all engineered. So thanks for reading, Natasha. Do you have any more to add? You're free to do because we have time. You can take your time.
What I like, in the story also is that, as you very correctly said, that nature can, and that part has come out very nice. I mean, the floods, it rained. I think Balavin says, it rained about 465 centimeters, something like that. So the nature protects, but nature is also something that someone who can also give a very swift reaction, and that part it came out very well, especially the floods, that the old man's floods, and that his pain was very clear, it was palpable, that he would want to go there and he would sit for his father. One can actually visualize the old man going. He didn't marry, I mean, so his entire life was sort of devoted to one incident in the past, and he sort of just lived by that one thing in his mind, and it's what grief can do to so many of us in different ways.
Yes,
That part has
and
come out
as
very
a
beautiful.
child, a 4-year-old
That
child,
4 years, right?
yes, that's one thing. And when I was there, after I came 1 or 2 years later, we had a flood. Remember Kerala flood?
Right.
Yes.
I do.
And during that time, I was seeing pictures, and I was feeling how. So I went on searching. Did it happen before or not? So I came to know it happened in 1924, which was worse than this. So when I thought this is so bad, how worse, how bad, and I went on searching, and I got to know about the church again. All the documents were
Gone.
completely
Right.
gone. Yeah, there's no birth certificate, no death certificate, nothing was there after that flood, and it was very. It was very, what to say. I was thinking, oh, this is sad. People are so disturbed all over the world. I know we didn't know what to do, how to help people, and all that. And to think that about that flood, it's terrible. And I ended up writing about it.
I think writing is the best way, we can sort of also pay homage to, not exactly homage, but talk about something and, in our own way, pay an
Yes.
ode to what happened.
Yeah. And yes, you're right. It pained me. Yes, that flood incident. So many stories. Oh my goodness. And And to think another one was there in 1924, worse than it was unimaginable for me, because I
Mhm.
had been to Munnar, and to think our hilly town to be affected by flood so
Right.
badly, then how bad that flooding is,
Right.
so
Even I've gone to Ladakh many years back, it's
Mm,
11 years.
mhm,
And just a month after the cloudburst had happened in Ladakh, and it was so devastating. And Ladakh, as it suffers, not suffers, it has, I mean, the geography of the places, I always say take a glass bottle, put stones, sand, put few drops of water. That's how the, consistency of mountains are there. So you can imagine when a cloudburst happened, the mountains they just came off because it's all sand. And there were towns that were washed off, and it's
uh-huh,
quite amazing. Really. Because I met a month later, and we still saw army putting bridges together, and so and I still remember the hotel guy at the end of our tour. He came to me and he said, I'm so grateful to you. So I was like, why? What happened? He's like, everybody cancelled out because people were so scared about. And he was like, you all didn't cancel, and for us that really made a difference because we had to otherwise reimburse a lot of money. And for us at that point in time, because of the floods, tourism is the only way. So nothing really grows there that we could sort of make a living. And I really felt so bad. I mean, of course, my intention was
yeah,
not that, but
I know,
it's
I know.
so. I
We
mean,
think, okay, let's cancel, let's go
mhm,
sometime, and
right.
they have to reimburse some amount, we lose some amount, that is nothing for us, we move on.
For us,
But when
exactly.
we think of the other side, their livelihood is disturbed.
Absolutely.
Of course, compared to that cloud, or the nature creating havoc, this is nothing, but at least little bit we could do is something which is
Absolutely.
very
Absolutely.
nice. Yeah, you will of course feel really good that time. I can
So,
understand that.
yeah.
Yeah, so thank you. Thank you, Natasha, for
Thank you, Jen.
reading and reviewing and, making this discussion. It was nice, nice. And thanks the way
It's a
you
pleasure.
read it. The way you read it, the said words and unsaid words. Of course, you're a writer yourself and you're brilliant. Thank you so much. I can't thank you enough.
Thank you so much, Jen.
Appreciate your time and effort. Thank you. Bye. Have
Thank
a
you.
good day
Bye.
and have a good trip also.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.